If you have a lot of tables on your website and you want your users to be able to conveniently work with your tables, such as sorting, searching, paginating through the results, you might want to consider the Datatables plugin for this. And I've used Datatables on my application. I've used it on two tables specifically. One is the Harmonized System Codes table. This table has 6,500 rows. And I also have another table on the site, which is the port codes, and this one has 45,000 rows in it. So in this video, I'll not only show you how to use the Datatables plugin for jQuery, I'll also show you how you can use it to work with very large tables ranging anywhere from tens of thousands of rows to millions of rows. And that's possible using Ajax. Let's just pop over to the Datatables page for a second. And I have their Ajax page open here. You can see that at datatables.net/examples/datasources/ajax.html. And they have an example here of a data table using basically using the Ajax option of it. Let's make this jQuery code a bit bigger here so we can see it. Inside your document ready, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select the table. So in this case, they have $, and then $example. They're selecting by ID here. And once you've selected the element with jQuery, just put .datatable at the end of it. And inside .datatable, you're going to pass it a JavaScript object. And inside that object, you can set various different options. In this case with Ajax, we will set B processing to true. And then Ajax source is going to be set to where the Ajax request should be made to. So let me show you some of the functionality that's built into Datatables, and specifically the Ajax variant of that. So on their page here, we have a table showing 10 rows right now, and I believe this is only going to load 10 rows initially. So your page loading times are going to be very fast, because even if this table showing here is actually a million rows, it's only going to load 10 rows initially. And then with each different thing that we do to the table, such as showing more entries, here I'm going to change it to show 50 entries, that is going to be a new Ajax request to make that happen. If I want to sort on the rendering engine, that's another Ajax request. If we want to search, so I'll search for 125 here, and each key press, whether I do a backspace or I type in a new letter, each one is going to be a new Ajax request, and that is going to do a partial search on the database using the like keyword in SQL. So because we're making an Ajax request to our server, and our server is working with a database such as MySQL, we're going to need to work with the server-side programming language like PHP, and we're going to need some PHP code to make that search on the database and then come up with a result and then return it back to the client. So if you scroll down on the page here, there's a link to server-side processing, and if we click on that, you are going to get some PHP code that was written by the author of this plugin. And inside is just some basic PHP. It's very easy to read, and I've implemented it into my Laravel site. I had a few issues with this code, and I've worked them out now, so I'll give you a heads up on the issues that I had so that you can save some time if you're implementing this into your PHP application. Let's first go over to the JavaScript and see what you need to do for that. So the only example we're going to talk about is using the Ajax option of Datatables. So I'm just going to go into my main.js file, and I'm going to make this text a little bit bigger. And you'll see down here I'm selecting all the tables, or I'm selecting any element here that has a class of datatable large. So I'm going to give this class to my tables if they're very large, if they have thousands of rows or tens of thousands of rows, they are going to get this class. And then once jQuery finds the element with that class, which is only going to be a table in this case, I'm putting the datatable method call onto it, and we're passing it an object, and inside the object we have B processing set to true, B server side is set to true, and then we have Ajax source, and this is where the get request is going to be made to the server. So in my case, I have /datatables, and then I'm concatenating on windows.location.pathname. So in my case, if I go over to my examples here, window.location.pathname is going to be HS codes here in this case, and for the port codes, it's going to be /port codes. So I'm basically just doing that to basically write less code in my JavaScript. And we can go over to the routes file now and see how that was handled. So you'll see here in the routes file, I have a single route set up for both of those two different requests. I'm using route get and then datatables slash, and then we have table inside the curly braces. So because this is inside the curly braces, this is a wildcard, and this route is going to be used for HS codes and for port codes. So no matter which page was requested here, HS codes or whether port codes was passed in here, we are going to use the data table controller, and we're going to use the Ajax method of that. So inside my data table controller, I have an Ajax function which takes the path name. So table right there is going to be either HS codes or it's going to be port codes. And I don't think the code I've written here is very readable, but basically all I have to do in here is I need to send this function that I created, this datatables ::Ajax function. I need to send it the table name, and I need to send it an array of the columns that it's going to search on. So let's go over to that class, and basically what I've done with this class, this could be a lot better, by the way. This could be a lot more object oriented, but basically I've just taken all of the code from online. Let's just go over there for a second. So basically I just copied all of that PHP code from Datatables site, and I pasted that inside this single function. And inside this function here, I need to pass the table name, as I mentioned, and I also need to pass it an array of the columns. So those are listed here inside the method signature. And then going down a little bit more, basically it has some old school PHP here for connecting to the database. So those can be accessed using the dot syntax there in the config get method. And then a little bit further down, because I'm using PHP 5.5, this MySQL Connect is going to throw a warning, I believe. So I have an ampersand in front of that just to suppress the PHP error. So I want to show you the main issue and the main problem I had with using this code. If we go back over to the browser here to my harmonized system codes right here, let's just refresh it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using the search filter. So I'm going to start typing the word paper. And you'll see once I type in PA, that's going to do a partial search on the database. And then I'm getting this error, and it says data tables warning, table ID equals data tables, and a bunch of stuff. JSON data from the server could not be parsed. This is caused by a JSON formatting error. So the best way to go about debugging something like this is to use the inspect tool in Chrome. So we'll just right click here and go to inspect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the network tab, and then I'm going to click the filter button, and then I'm going to click XHR. So this is going to only show me the Ajax network calls here. And I'm going to refresh here, and that's fine. We get a normal response here. If you click on the request here, you'll see we're getting a JSON object returned to us. Everything is fine. So I'm going to type P, and that's going to make another request. That's fine. And then I'm going to type A, and now we get the error. Okay, so this last request, we have an error. So what I'm going to do, we can see this second one is fine. Get a normal JSON response. And in the third one, you'll see I get some errors. Now you're only seeing these errors here because I'm purposely outputting them within the code. Originally what I had here was nothing, so it was quite hard to debug. But we did get a little bit of hint from the alert that came from Datatables, and to let us know that it was something to do with JSON. Some sort of JSON error was happening, and within the code we are running the JSON encode function. So we can know that something is going wrong with the JSON encoding here. So there's a few ways that you can go about debugging JSON encoding errors or JSON using the JSON encode function or using the JSON decode function. You can run the JSON last error function here. So JSON last error, if there was an error, this is going to return, I believe this first one returns the error code. So this could be like 3, 4, 5. And there's also another function which is JSON last error message. So here what I'm doing is I'm printing out the results of JSON last error and also JSON last error message. So going back over to the browser, we see that JSON last error is 5, and the JSON last error message, which is a bit more helpful, says it's malformed UTF-8 characters, possibly incorrectly encoded. So we have a problem here with the output. It's running into some characters that it's not able to encode, so we're getting the error. The reason this error is happening is because I'm working with a legacy database, and there's all kinds of different stuff in these cells, and obviously there's a lot of data. It could be foreign characters such as Chinese characters or something, and it's not able to run JSON encode on here. So I did come up with some code to fix this, and I'll show you just how that works. So basically what I did was, inside this while loop, I'm creating a new array called sanitized row. And you'll see that row at this point is going to be an array of the different cells that it got from the column. So because I'm looping through 3 columns here, you'll remember that we passed through 3 column names. This row is going to be an array of 3 elements. So what I want to do is I want to loop through this row. I want to loop through each cell of the row, and I want to run this function on it. And the function that I'm running on it is iconv. The first argument is UTF-8. The second argument is UTF-8//ignore, and the last one is the string that is being run on. So what is happening in this function is the first argument is basically telling it what we're expecting, and in the second one, UTF-8//ignore, if it encounters a character that we are not going to be able to run JSON encode on it, what it's going to do is it's actually just going to convert it to a space right here. So basically what this function invocation is doing right here is it's just sanitizing our data. It's removing all the problem characters, and then I'm storing that sanitized string inside cell, and then each of the cells I'm pushing it back onto the sanitized row array. And what we're going to do here is instead of storing the row here, I'm going to store the sanitized row. So at this point, we are not going to get any more JSON encoding errors. And if I go back over to the browser here and refresh, I'm going to type what I typed last time, which was PAPER, and you'll see we aren't getting any errors anymore. The last thing that I want to talk about in this video is the controllers and views that I used here. I've actually used 2 separate controllers to do this. The HS codes has its own controller, and the port codes has its own controller. We can go over to the code and see that. So inside the HS code controller here, basically I'm just setting up a title for the page. I'm also creating a section variable that's used, I think that's used in H1 or H2 within the content somewhere. And then I have this data columns. And what I'm doing is I'm setting this to an associative array of 3 elements. And the key is going to be basically the column header, and the value of it is going to be the width. And we're going to use this within Twitter Bootstrap. The other controller is the port code controller, and the structure of this is exactly the same, but it has different data. And both of these 2 controllers are using a single view, which is tables.index. One of the problems I was having with basically with the tables was on this HS codes table, what was happening when I wasn't using Twitter Bootstrap, when I wasn't setting the column widths. This description column, which has the longest strings in it, was actually the most narrow of the table cells, so it looked really bad. This HS code level and HS code, which basically have from 1 to 4 characters. These were very wide and the description was very narrow, so it looked quite bad. But if you're using Twitter Bootstrap, you can control this. So let's go over to the view that both of these are using. And what I've done here is I'm basically looping through all the columns we passed through. So remember, columns was an associative array. So for each columns as header width, then we're going to output this th tag. And inside the th tag, we have a class of call sm, and then we're using Laravel's blade syntax to output the width there, and we concatenate that onto the sm dash, and we do the same thing for call empty dash, and then we concatenate on the width, and then for the headers value, it just takes the index. So if we go over to the controller for a second, you'll see the column names here, port code, port name, and country. And we have the widths here, 4, 4, and 4. So in that case, for port codes, that will give them an even width. So in Twitter Bootstrap, the total width is 12. So if each of them have 4, then they'll be an equal width. But with the harmonized system codes, most of the data is in this description one. So what I chose to do here is have 2 units for the HS code level, 2 units for HS code, and then 8 for the description. So if we go over to the controller for that, you'll see those values there, 2, 2, and 8. So let's just finish off this video by seeing what you can do with the data tables. So for example, in this harmonized system codes here, I could search for anything. I could search for animals. So I'll start typing that in. And with each key press, we are doing a new Ajax request to the server, and that's returning a new result set. So you can do searching on the fly like that. We can also change the amount of rows that we show on the page and put that back to 10. It has pagination built in here. So here you can just click next. And the really nice thing about this pagination is it's all through Ajax. So we're not getting any new page refreshes. And then in the bottom left here, it shows you where you are in the data set. You can see let's make this a bit bigger. I'm showing 61 to 70 of 6,500 entries.